Our next presentation is by Adam Steger, and I believe that Adam is here joining us, but he pre-recorded his presentation.
Hello everyone, I'm Adam Steger, the founder and CEO of TRIC Robotics. We're developing a non-chemical treatment to prevent gray mold, powdery mildew, and two-spotted spider mites on strawberry farms. Our technology works by combining ultraviolet light and automation, but you can think of it like a giant field Roomba that kills pathogens on your farm with no added labor from you. I'm really excited to be here because I had the chance to present this idea at last year's meeting, and back then we were just getting started. Here we're testing one of our early prototypes at University of Delaware's Carvel Center in Georgetown, Delaware last year. Back then, like I said, we were just getting started on the development of this robot platform, and the idea was it can be used to carry ultraviolet lights on the farm. We didn't come up with this idea by ourselves. It's actually the result of a lot of work from two scientists at the United States Department of Agriculture's Appalachian Fruit Research Station out in Kearneysville, West Virginia. They had been studying how to use ultraviolet light effectively for about 10 years before they had a breakthrough and found out how to use it as a replacement for chemical pesticides. They were able to show that UVC light can be used as effectively as pesticides for gray mold, powdery mildew, two-spotted spider mites, and other pests. One of the scientists, Dr. Takata, reached out to our team to let us know about their progress, and we got really excited about the opportunity to work with them to make this technology available for farmers. In fact, this technology has really taken off over the past year. A lot of scientists are reading about their work, and new results are starting to surface. Results showing early flowering, increased shelf life, and even stimulation of plants' defenses to protect against future infection. To give you a background on the science, I'll borrow two slides from Dr. Takata. Ultraviolet light is a spectrum of light naturally emitted by our sun. It can be divided into three groups: UVA, UVB, and UVC. UVA and UVB might be familiar because those are the ones that give you sunburn, but UVC is blocked by the Earth's atmosphere. It turns out that for small organisms, UVC can damage their DNA, effectively sterilizing them. That means they can't replicate and cause problems in the field. So really, what this means is that UVC could potentially act as an alternative treatment with a lot of potential benefits over existing methods. If you could use something like this in place of chemicals, you wouldn't have to worry about resistances from one year to the next. It's a non-chemical method, so you wouldn't have to worry about regulatory issues, and you might even be able to sell your fruit as natural or non-chemical for a higher profit. You also wouldn't need to worry about no entry and no harvest periods, which would be really great for U-pick areas. And it's a single treatment that could kill many different pathogens, so honestly it would just be less to think about. One thing I'm particularly interested in for East Coast farmers is the fact that UVC could also provide a relatively low-risk pathway for farmers to convert from conventional to organic. It would be really great to bring strawberries back to the East, especially if we could do it organically with this technology. Some research even shows early flowering and higher yields for UVC-treated strawberries, so for organic growers, it might even help increase yield and reduce year-over-year uncertainty, which I know is a problem. So there's really a lot of potential for this technology to reshape the way we grow our food, but you're probably wondering, how can we use it? I agree with you. Science is really great, but it's only useful to us if you can be used on the farm. And that brings us back to where we were last year. For UVC to work, it has to be done at night. It takes between 15 and 60 seconds per plant, and treatments have to happen a couple times per week, all season long. These are pretty big changes to how things are done today, so we decided to develop a more practical way of getting this technology to farmers, a way that could work in the field and wouldn't require a ton of labor in the middle of the night. We envisioned it as something that could go up and down the rows carrying these lights by itself, doing these treatments with no labor from the farmer. So we designed this robot. And we quickly found out that it had a lot of problems. It was hard to make something work on the farm. So we took what we learned and we went back to the drawing board and came up with a new concept. But this time we presented the new design in the form of this flyer. And we showed it to a bunch of farmers. And we were surprised when we started getting them back with notes from all of you. That's when we realized for automation to work on the farm, it needed to be simple. You're probably used to seeing companies develop robots that look futuristic with sensors sticking out in every direction, But we took a different approach after getting feedback from the farmers. Instead of focusing on how many sensors we could add to make the robot work, we decided that we needed to work on minimizing the amount of sensors, minimizing the cost and the complexity of this device. So we designed something that was meant for the farm and just works. It's almost entirely steel and the parts are easy to put together and fix if you have to. Then we took it to the farm, because that's what you have to do to find out what doesn't work. Here's a shot we took during the day so you could see the robot running on Pfeiffer orchards this past season. And it ran really great despite its simplicity. But this is how it really runs. Here it's performing UVC light treatments at night. If you look at the bottom right corner, you can see that most of the video is sped up. The robot actually runs quite slow, and that's because it's important that each plant gets just enough exposure for the treatments. As you can imagine, it doesn't make much sense to have a person out there in the middle of the night. Plus, just like sunburn, you don't want to expose your skin or eyes to UVC light. For our team at TRIC Robotics, this was the perfect opportunity to solve an important problem using our skills in automation. This year we brought this technology to 3 very different farms. One of them with Dr. Takata at the Appalachian Fruit Research Station, another at the University of Delaware's Carvel Research Center, which we were really happy to have the help of Dr. Johnson, and another one at a commercial site I showed you earlier at Pfeiffer Orchards. You can see we had a range of plot sizes and ran experiments on Albion, Camino Real, Sweet Charlie, Chandler, and Flavorfest. The farms also had very different terrain as well, with the USDA site being on a hill, Georgetown being very flat, and Pfeiffer Orchards with the ramps and the ruts. At our Georgetown site, we were lucky to have some help picking, but it was really a lot to keep up with since it was a larger planting. We ended up trimming back some of the plants to keep up with it part of the way through the season, but it was really a good amount of strawberries to harvest. So we had some overripe issues in the field, and that made it actually a good test for some of the bigger pests like sap beetles. It looks like UVC doesn't have much effect on sap beetles or on lygus bugs, so most likely you'd want to make sure you stay ahead of the picking, and also we might want to run the lygus bugs in the field. Actually, this might be a really nice opportunity to put a lygus vacuum on the robot. It's possible that we could even do UVC treatments at the same time. I think strawberry picking also might just be one of the best back workouts I've ever had. I was pretty sore a few of those days, so learned a little bit about exercise too. At Pfeiffer Orchard, our team picked small experimental sections, and we ended up combining marketable yield from all of the UVC sections in one bucket, and the same for conventional. This made harvesting and weighing easier, but we lost some of the statistical analysis that we could have done. So we learned a lot about how we should do the harvesting and how we should collect the data in the future. The farms each had their own challenges, and they helped us identify a lot of the problems we had with the robot and with the treatments. And because I was the one doing these treatments, it was really great because I could discover the problems and solve them within a relatively short period of time. To be honest, it was painful in the beginning, and for the first few weeks, this is what treatments look like. The robot would stop or get stuck, and I would be out there troubleshooting in the dark. As the founder of the company, I spent hundreds of hours in the field, and I ran the robot on 2 farms all by myself. Although it was hard at times, I was able to fix the problems immediately in the field when they came up. This helped us fail fast and make changes to get the robot running in a short period of time. Some of the nights were extra tough. We snapped shafts, ran over rows, and were surprised by normal things like row covers. I have to say, pulling row covers off in the middle of the night is really not easy, and that might have been one of the harder things I had to do all season. At Pfeiffer Orchards, we built small ramps so we could do our treatments on a small section of the field without having to drive all the way to the end. This was an extra difficult obstacle for the robot, but it performed very well. This is until a tractor created some ruts in the field. Combined with the ruts and the ramps, the robot experienced some really challenging conditions. For example, at one point, the treatment array contacted the ramps and we had to stop the robot. By the end, we were sitting happily in lawn chairs, just watching the robot do its thing. We also collected some really nice data and learned a lot about strawberries. Our first 2 pilots went really well. With nearly 50 treatments, we got some yield data and even some data that showed promising results on spider mites. When we first started, we had poor control over the UVC light intensity, And we also had trouble doing reliable treatments because of all the problems we had with the robot. I already showed you what some of the troubles we had along the way, but one thing I underestimated was the challenge of physically loading the robot up and moving it from site to site. We had a single robot, so I basically took a U-Haul, as you can see in this picture, and I would load it up every night and bring it to one of the two farms. And really the big challenge with that is just scheduling when the robot was coming. With the conventional farm, we had to be careful to schedule around when they did their pesticide treatments on the rest of the farm. We couldn't be on the farm at the same time. So that, along with the rainy conditions and other scheduling issues, led to us doing treatments every 4 to 5 days instead of every 3 days. We did a lot to improve the robot, but all in all, our treatments were not reliable, so we didn't expect to have good yield results. This is data we collected from Pfeiffer Orchard with grams of marketable yield on the y-axis. You can see we had some surprising results here. UVC actually provided higher yield than the conventional section. As you can imagine, this was a really big surprise for us. So I'll say, as a disclaimer, there are many variables that come into play here, and it'll take multiple seasons to really know how much, if any, benefit we see on yield by using UVC. Really, the goal for us was just to achieve equal benefit as the conventional. But the results are promising either way, and because of that, we're excited to continue getting data in this next season. Now that the robot runs reliably, we can get good statistical data to confirm these results. On the third site, we lost one planting because we're not allowed to run the robot during COVID. We ended up planting a second plot, but it was late in the season, so we didn't end up getting useful data on UVC effectiveness. We did still gain a lot from the site, however. Since it was 2.5 hours away, we needed someone other than our team to run the robot. And that person had no knowledge of robotics or really how to run it at all in the beginning. So this really pushed us to think about all the small things that were easy for us to fix in the field that really became a big issue for someone who didn't know how to use the robot. It really streamlined the process and got us set up for running the robot on different sites. Overall, I would say that between the data we collected and the improvements that we made on the robot, we had a really successful first season. And we've been really lucky because we've had amazing support from so many sources. I mean, these are just a few of the sources that have helped us grow along the way and get this technology where it is today. We've had some really great news coverage and won several competitions as well. I'm really excited to say that we also just won a National Science Foundation Small Business Innovation Research Grant. This is going to help us really dig into the UVC technology and understand how to get it to farmers as effectively as possible. This year, now that the robots work well, we'll be collecting clear case study data to show how well UVC works in open fields. This will help us make claims on yield improvement and effectiveness as a pesticide replacement. As a founder of this company, one of the biggest things on my mind is trying to understand how this works as a business. Last week, we drove out to California, and we're currently setting up 2 robots on larger organic farms. Now, we still plan to have 2 robots on the East Coast, but one thing we need your help with is understanding how treatments like this work in your business. What type of pricing should I be targeting in order for this to make sense on your farm? And how much can you pay for a solution like this? These are really important questions to make sure that this business can be successful and we can get the technology to farmers. In California, farmers are willing to start paid pilots by paying for our solution as a cost replacement. So instead of paying for their current methods, they'll pay the same amount for the robot to run. For them, that means there's less labor, less overall inputs, and potentially other benefits like improved yield. My question for you is, how can this work on the East Coast? It's our goal to develop a solution that can work on both large and small farms, so we're really interested to hear what you think. One of the ways this system can be more valuable is by expanding its functionality. UVC is really just the beginning for us because we can use the same robot platform to do other tasks on the farm, like weeding. One of the things we're really excited about is how we can collect data to do really innovative things like predict yield on your farm. So ideas like this are really interesting to us, and we're excited to hear what farmers think this platform can be used for in the future. Here's an example of some of the work that we have been doing with the help of a Delaware Biotechnology Institute Entrepreneurial Proof of Concept Grant. Now we can track individual plants in the field, and we're starting to use machine learning to identify plant size, flowers, strawberries, and hopefully with the help of people like Kim Lors, we can also start to identify pests and disease pressure as well. So we're really excited about what data can do for the future. Overall, as I said before, this past year has been really great for progress. We've made a lot of headway on the robot platform. It's robust enough now to get good case study data, and we're excited to be able to share that with you in the future. It's important to mention that none of this would have been possible without the feedback that we got from farmers along the way, and we're still figuring out how this works. So if you have any feedback, you can really make an impact on how the solution looks in the long term. So please take a second and reach out to us and let us know what you think of this platform and how it can work in your business. Now, I put a QR code up on the screen. If you just pull up your phone, you can actually use the camera to scan that, and it'll bring you to a website where you can fill out a form to get in contact with us. Or if you don't want to do that, you can always just email me personally at adam@tricrobotics.com. Looking forward to hearing from everyone, and happy to open it up for questions now.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Sorry I couldn't present that in person. I wasn't going to be able to flip the slides, but I can share a nice farm sunset with y'all. We've got one of the robots here. I've got Vishnu, one of the people that work with me, trying to get this thing ready for some of these strawberry rows. So yeah, please ask me any questions you have. Really excited to hear your feedback. Yeah, so Kim's question, how do we expect to kind of get this to the farmers? Like, what's our business model? Are we selling them, or are we going to do some kind of like leasing model or subscription? I think we want to do this really similar to how you currently pay for your treatments. So if it's something you pay for monthly, then we would like to have kind of a monthly payment to replace what you currently do. And that's because it's good for our business, and it kind of causes least friction with yours, as far as we've heard. But we're pretty open to figuring out what works best for the farmers. Yeah. So I mean, a service is definitely better in terms of the way our business would work, and also I think it's crazy how much robotic technology gets upcharged to farmers, and for me it's more about getting the value out to solve the problem. Also, I think it'll help us get to more farms. You know, we really want to target small farms as well. I think it would be really difficult. Yeah, exactly. And also there's a lot of new advances that happen in robotics, especially when we start bringing in the data portion of this. You know, these types of upgrades will be something that come, you know, I mean, like a lot of the other services that we tend to hate in our personal lives, this is actually a good thing because there's so much advancement that happens with automation these days that we can bring that to you much faster. You know, if you bought something, it'd be outdated in a couple months. So we can hopefully get every year better and better solutions to you.
Adam, I just wanted to add from the Delaware site, looking at the statistics again today, on those strawberries that were anthracnose resistant, like Flavorfest, we got a highly significant and over a third more yield in the UVC treatments. So again, we'll have
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have some good statistics. We do know that it does not control ligus bug, and so that's an issue. But that idea of putting a ligus bug vacuum on, that's kind of neat. I like that idea. So again, you did have, even though you had some issues trying to get it adjusted for this first year, you did get on the Sweet Charlie and the Flavorfest, you did get yield increases. As far as disease incident, we really didn't see an effect on botrytis as far as number of berries, but since you had so many more marketable berries in Flavorfest, if we did it as a percentage, it would again come out with botrytis control. Again, no anthracnose control though, of course. So that's one disease that you're going to have to start out with a program with clean plants and and ideally varieties that have anthracnose resistance, like those ones that Kim is developing. So, any thoughts on other, like as a potential harvest aid, using the robot as a potential harvest aid, like having harvesters with it? Did you hear that, Adam?
Oh, that's for me. Sorry, I thought that was. I was hoping that was for farmers to see what they think. Yeah. No, I think this is definitely something we're interested in. Not picking the berries. I think that's something that it would be, down the pipeline after running this quite a bit, collecting a lot of data to understand what good strawberries look like and all that. But I think it could be really useful as a platform to reduce the amount of like walking that happens. When you pick the strawberries, hopefully we could have it so you can imagine the crew pushing a button on the robot, it moving through the rows a couple feet, then them being able to load whatever strawberries they pick onto the robot instead of having to, do as much like manual movements. But thanks for pointing out that increase in yield. This is a big surprise for us, and it's actually quite exciting. That, along with the early flowering, I mean, if you can get berries to market a bit faster, that I know price kind of shifts around, so that could be a good thing too.
I think Dave's going to have some the mite information in his talk also.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that, and thanks to everybody who helped at the UD site. That was huge for us. It would have been really tough without you all.
Yeah, if folks didn't know, we were in full COVID protocol at that time, so I spent most of my April, May, and June harvesting and working in strawberries. So.
It makes us stronger,
So talk about your California partners, the farms you're working with there.
Yeah. So we've got one farm that's a larger site. They've got 500 acres organic. And then we've got another that's about 80 acres organic. And I think the big thing we see there that will be a benefit is for organic farmers, they are currently picking off gray mold by hand. And that's, it's called culling. This is the only treatment effectively that they can do for that. So this should, at least the research results from the USDA scientists show that it could be effective against gray mold. So this is something that can give them the only treatment available for gray mold. And another big problem here is spider mites. And, this is something they use Persimilis for now. And if we can, in this first couple of months, actually, they're going to be putting the Persimilis down depending on the mite loads. So if we can get some good results here in the first couple of months, we could even start to be moving into paid pilots with them and replacing some of the things that they're doing. So for us, it's a really good opportunity, and it's the farms are much bigger here. So sacrificing a little section of the farm for them is a little bit easier. So hopefully we can get some results that do translate back to the East Coast. I saw a question about different types of crops. The treatment that we do for strawberries, especially the fungus and stuff like mites, we have good evidence that this works against those things based on the tabletop studies and some of the early field studies. So if we were to adapt the robot to different crops, it would definitely we'd have to adapt the automation a bit so that it works in different types of rows. But if we wanted to scale to different types of crops, I think this is a really good option. It would work. There would be some challenges with it. So our plan is to really get a strong foothold in the strawberry industry. I think that kind of spreads us less thin and gets us focused on one market to start. But yeah, we definitely want to expand to other markets in the future. I'm not sure which is better, if we should expand to more functionality for strawberry growers first, or to just expand to use the UVC technology right away with other crops. I guess that's something we'll kind of discover as we go. What's nice is a lot of the strawberry farmers do have other crops, so it would be pretty easy to transition and test it on different types of crops.
So what's the temperature today?
It gets cold at night, but it was in the 60s today. So I know probably you guys are a little jealous of that. But I'll tell you, these fields, it gets windy out here. I was joking with James earlier about being a little wimp because I've got all these layers on right now. And back home, he said it was 27 degrees or something like that. But right now we're in Santa Maria. So we've got one in the Santa Maria area and another in Salinas. So we're trying to get in one of the farms is actually on a hill, a pretty steep hill, and the other one is all flat. So we'll have a good feel of two different types of farms, two different areas in California. Hopefully that gives us some diversity of our results.
Okay, thank you, Adam.
But yeah, if anyone has any thoughts, I'm really excited to hear from farmers. I think this is really big for us. So please reach out with my email or with that QR code. And thanks everybody for inviting us to talk.